Hello. I'm Slowburfist and I'm here to teach you how to beat the first part of FGO story in a very short amount of time. This video contains spoilers for certain fights, and for the time being this method only applies to the JP server. I am going to be starting an account completely fresh, but you can easily find accounts with about 1,000 quartz that haven't done the story yet for cheap. If you plan on playing the server for a long time, buying one is a good investment. This video is going to be more in-depth for the sake of people who never played the game before. If you already know what you are doing, you probably won't need to watch everything on this video. The first step will obviously be complete the tutorial until the game allows you to actually play freely. The second step will be doing friend points summons, or FP summons as they are called more commonly. In the FP gacha, we will be looking for 2 units in specific. St. George is the best one, but Leonidas is an acceptable replacement. The next step will be adding someone to give you good supports. As of currently, JP has a system that allows you to follow people. Following people is similar to adding someone as friends. You can use their supports and their NPs like if you were friends, but they only show up for the part 1 story, and they don't need to accept your friend request. You can use them right away. Another feature of JP is the ability of setting up 2 active support pages for different things, one for story and dailies and another for events. The friend code you will use is my own. I guarantee you that I will not be changing the supports that will help you, so this video should never go out of date unless something big changes in the game. If you don't get either of the good FP summons that you want right away, that is okay. Simply use whatever you have that will die the fastest. Set up your party with only 2 members and don't even bother giving them CEs. Do your daily free FP roll and don't be afraid to use all FP you get from login and story on the FP gacha. You will need more bronze servants either way. Also, here are some settings that will help speed up farming. I'll go over a few more in just a moment. The first handful of chapters will be very easy for Kintoki. You can use it to get used to the combat system. One thing you will quickly notice is that if you use more than 1 card from the same character, even if the first card kills the enemy, the second card will still attack that enemy. That seems like a bad thing, but it is for the sake of a mechanic called overkill, that allows you to gain lots of stars and NP charge. There is an exception to attacking the same enemy. If you use an attack and it kills the enemy, you use that character NP. The NP will target the living enemy that is closest to your party. If the NP kills an enemy and there is still another enemy alive, the third attack will hit the third enemy. You will use this a lot, so I will provide examples. Kintoki has 3 skills. The first one is a big 1-turn damage upgrade. The second is a 50% NP charge, and combined with a CE allows him to NP right away. The third is mostly a heal, but it doesn't heal a lot and Kintoki will die very easily, so don't rely on it too much.
The first few chapters up till America will be a cakewalk, so I will address some questions and show some clips in the meantime. The most obvious question will probably be why I chose Kintoki. I have done this many times before, and I even tried a maxed out Raikou with maxed out Kaleidoscope. But at the end of the day, the extra buster card made Kintoki faster and more consistent, not to mention I like him way more. Plus I'm not a whale and I don't have every servant under my belt, so I might just not have someone like Kualter. A lot of times it will be important to start with a buster card, even if it's not Kintoki's. Also, if you haven't realized it by now, I want to take a team of George and Mashu with me. Their role is to taunt up and die, and let the support you pick solo the stage. Without other party members, the strong support you took can easily dispatch most stages by himself. This is what this strategy revolves around. You will use other supports beside Kintoki. I will show you when, where and who to take for certain fights in this video. This is the bulk of the content in the video. This technique will work on the US server once they add follow and double support pages, but as of the time this video was uploaded, those features are not yet implemented. Also, someone will have to commit themselves like I am to not change their supports, and specifically cater to people doing story. I might make a video about the US server in the future, if someone like that contacts me. I do not have a US account any longer. Some stages will have the most healthy enemy being on the back, which makes them weird to kill if they have too much health. Even if you don't kill everyone in 1 turn, it's okay. You should probably be able to handle yourself even on those situations. Mashu will only get her third skill in London, so until then bear with her getting on your way a little bit. Remember that you actually don't want to level her or George. If you already leveled Mashu a lot, try using a level 1 Leonidas instead. The final fight against Coup Alter in America is one of the first that you could just lose due to bad luck. From here on out there will be a handful of fights that will require you to be careful. Most of them should be covered here. Kentucky has a hard time dealing with fights where the enemy either isn't weak to berserkers, or can dodge and put guts on itself. Losing can also happen due to bad enemy targeting or bad starting cards, while your teammates are still alive. I think that by now I have shown enough clips that explain how to play Kentucky, and I have good faith that you understand how to handle the normal stages, so let's jump straight to the stages that are a bit more complicated. Quick note that you can still lose some stages due to bad luck, but don't be discouraged, unless I say it's a better idea to take someone else to a stage. I know for sure Kentucky can do that stage, just try a few more times, try changing when you use your skills if you need to. This fight will be the first one that you'll have to use someone else. Kentucky cannot do enough damage to the enemy in time. The first fight you simply have to stall, and the second you actually have to kill him. Luckily the archer I have set up deals with this enemy quite efficiently. Use her for the next fight as well, and you should have no problem. This fight against Mordred can be tricky, just remember that it's two different waves. The first one she won't use her NP, but the second one she will. If you fight her like I do here she shouldn't be a problem, but you have a chance to lose this fight. On this fight you both can't dodge Tristan's NP, and Tristan deals extra damage to berserkers, but doesn't take extra damage himself. To fight this one I use my ruler. His NP gives him taunt and invulnerability, which allows him to easily survive everything on this fight. Simply keep using his NP whenever you can, and you'll eventually kill Tristan before he can do much to you. When you fight against Mordred again inside Camelot it'll be a hard fight. George is basically useless in that fight, so use either Blackbeard or Shakespeare to give Kentoki's NP some extra damage, otherwise it's quite possible you'll be a bit short on damage. Try to have both Blackbeard and Shakespeare ready, you'll be using them on the last chapter. Right after Mordred you'll fight Tristan. He's a bit easier in this version, and you can beat him with Kentoki if you want, but if you want to be safe, you can still beat him with Qin Shi Huang. In here you'll face off against Gawain again. Once again just use the archer and you'll be set. He's even weaker than he was when you first fought him. After Gawain you'll be facing off against Lancer Arturia. Those fights are quite difficult. The first one Kentoki can handle quite easily, but the second one you'll need the help of Siegfried. If you're not careful you'll lose this fight, so I'll try to give you a strategy that I think works well. First you have to realize that every time Arturia NPs she will gain invulnerability pierce, which means you can't dodge it either way, so you'll have to tank it. Siegfried gains extra defense against dragons, which she is 1, so try to use his third skill right on first turn. Use George Taunt and Mashu defense buff. You'll likely be able to tank the first NP quite easily with all that, and she should charge her NP enough the buffs will still be up. The second tip I have is to try to keep your second NP until you have your third skill back up. If you can overcharge it to 200% it's fine, you should be able to finish her with it. Babylonia shouldn't give you too much trouble, but this is one of the fights where you need to survive, rather than kill the enemy. For those kind of fights Kentoki isn't very good, but the Emperor is quite effective, so take him and simply survive until the enemy goes away. Babylonia has a few fights like that. This one being the other one. Don't worry about the fact you'll be facing off an Avenger. The Emperor can quite easily handle stalling fights against even an Avenger by himself. Around this fight was when I realized that there were too many Avenger fights, and my first try on this fight was quite unfortunate, as you'll see. It was then that I realized that I hadn't used Abigail, who was in my first slot, at all. I changed her out for BB. BB can easily handle those fights. Even though the Emperor can still beat this fight, you can take BB to it, and she'll easily survive long enough to win the fight. This fight against Ishtar deserves special mention. Even though you'll be using Kentucky on it, it's quite a hard fight. Every fight before this, and Ishtar would not use her NP. This fight she will. The best tip I have to give you is to kill her as soon as you can, and not be afraid to tank a few normal attacks from the doors. If you save your evasion for their NP, you should be able to easily win. This particular fight will be the first time you meet Quetz. She has a barrier that prevents character with good alignment to deal any damage to her, so Kentucky can't damage her at all. Luckily I have a Jack set up on assassin slot, and she will easily beat her up. This is just the warm-up fight, and you don't need to kill her here, but you will have to afterwards. Jack benefits from spamming her quick cards. If you need to charge her NP, the best combo is to start with arts, and then double quick cards. Just a few fights later and we'll have the real fight against Quetz. This time you won't be able to skip the cutscene, and will be forced to choose an option to proceed. If you want the easy fight, pick the bottom option, and you should be set. Once again, you shouldn't need to worry about much, just time your skill correctly, and Jack shouldn't have any problem doing this fight. I have a video of Jack doing this fight if you pick the first option, which I call it hard mode, and while I proved she can do that fight, it also proves that you need a lot of luck and a specific C-Wit guts to make it work. The easy version of the fight shouldn't be any problem at all. The last two arrows on Chapter 15 are battles against Avengers. I first tried to beat them with Kentucky, and while I managed to beat the first one, the second one proved quite difficult. Just save yourself the trouble and use BB for both of them. BB will easily stomp both Kingu and Gorgon. This is the next fight you'll have to worry about, the fight against the Ushi clones that will spam their NP every turn. For this fight, bring my saber. Siegfried will easily deal with them with his NP. The goal is just to get him to use it twice and you win. It's worth noting that the enemies you'll unlock after beating Kingu will start to become really tanky and really annoying. The fact they can remove buffs means they can make George stick around or remove your dodge and kill you, but Kentoki can handle all those stages I'm not showing. You might just have to try them a couple of times to succeed. The secret to this fight is that the enemy on the back doesn't attack you at all. Just kill the first two enemies, and the fight is over. You just have to keep attacking the last enemy till it dies, and it will keep spamming debuffs and not attacking you. This fight is also quite simple. You must at all costs kill the first enemy on the first turn. If you do that, you pretty much already won. The problem, and the good news, is that the enemies on this stage are neutral to berserkers, which means your damage is lowered, but you can tank a few hits for once. You can try to beat this stage without killing the original in the first turn, but I guarantee if you restart and try to get a first turn kill, it'll make your life much easier. The next chapter is basically just a victory lap. You'll get so many buffs that you'll be basically unable to lose. It's actually a bit annoying that George and Mashu can't die easily, but it's not that bad since they can be useful with their skills. For this fight in particular, you want to take the unknown NPC. It's the old man of the mountain, and he has a chance of killing enemies instantly on his NP and normal attacks. This stage has a lot of enemies. They all have large amounts of health, and they don't take extra damage from any class. Trying to get them down with instant kill is a good way to dispatch them. If you have a friend that has Arjuna, it's a good way to do it too. This fight is quite long, but you shouldn't be in risk of losing. I have done it with Kentoki before, but it took something like over 30 turns to do it. Tiamat herself is quite an easy fight. In both chapters you fight against her. Nothing too important to say here, so let's start talking about the next chapter already. Get a team of Shakespeare and Blackbeard ready. On the next chapter, bond points make servants deal extra damage, and most of my support lineup is bond 10, so you'll be able to deal a lot of damage. Of course that includes Kentoki. Dealing double the damage, he will be quite useful to kill the enemy pillars. Use the buffs from the two companions, and watch the fireworks go off. Once all the pillars have been taken care of, this is where the real fun begins. You'll have to fight the main enemy, Solomon. For this fight he is a caster that will keep spamming dodge. If you want to outstall him, the easy solution is using the Emperor. He will show him what stalling is all about without breaking a sweat. My Ozymandias is also bond 10, and he uses the QP increase C. He probably can also beat this fight so long you don't get extremely unlucky. The fight after this one you can use the Emperor again. All you have to do is allow him to NP you and the fight ends. Even if you kill him you don't win, and the fight doesn't end until he uses his NP, so just keep yourself alive. The fight after that is the big one, considered by many the final boss fight. Even though it's not the last fight, there's another one after it. There are quite a lot of videos of servants fighting and winning solo against this guy, and I have done it in the past with my Ozymandias, but I was using a specific C for that. I want to keep my QPC on him, so either to beat this guy you'll have to add someone else, or you'll use my Ozymandias, and once you manage to get a few good hits and use your CS to revive your party, and then beat him with ease. You shouldn't have needed your CS for anything else up to this point, so it's perfectly fine to use them here. The gimmick of this fight is that he will vaporize the first 3 party members you send, so you'll want to make a team specific for this fight with 3 frontliners that don't matter. He also starts with a barrier that lasts 3 turns that reduces damage from critical hits and NPs, so trying to kill him early won't work. Save your best hits until the barrier is gone. The last fight of part 1 is against Human King Gosha, and this fight is much easier compared to the last one. I recommend taking the Emperor for this fight, because the gimmick is that there will be a lot of debuffs going around, and he won't be weak to any class. Also, when he gets low enough he will use a suicide attack that will reduce him to 1 HP, and charge his NP, dealing a ton of damage, and basically guaranteeing to kill anyone who hits without an invul. The Emperor can use his NP to buy time and survive, but be careful to not miss time and get yourself killed like I did when I recorded this. The tell for when he is about to do his suicide attack is when he casts the invulnerability on himself. And there you go, that is the entire part 1 beaten without leveling up a single servant yourself, and using only the supports I have provided, only having to use your CS for one fight. If you have any suggestions or complaints, let me know. I'll write my friend code on the description, but be warned, you'll have to follow me. I don't have that many open slots to accept friend requests. Again, once the NA server gets the update that allows them to have a page for story mode, and allows people to follow them, this will work for them as well, but you'll have to find someone who is willing to help you with supports that can solo the first part of story mode. After beating the entire story you'll have a much easier time getting people to add you, as you have the cause rank, and you're a much higher level than when you started. A lot of people, me included, don't really add low-level newbies, cause they often stay as low-level newbies, and then drop the game. If you have shown you're committed by at least beating the first part of the story, it'll help you a lot.